Peace, love, liberty, radio.
And the walls come crashing down as the war at home reaches your town. You have no choice, it's safe and clean. We all submit to the war machine.
So today is Wednesday, and if you were not listening Monday, or if you missed the show on Monday, I have a programming update. There will not be a show this Friday. That's because I will be in court, not as a plaintiff or as a defendant. I will be there as a journalist covering the trial of Robin Hood of Keene. There are 6 individuals that have been sued by the city of Keene here in New Hampshire. The claim is that while they're out feeding parking meters, they are harassing the parking enforcers and preventing them from doing their jobs. Their job, by the way, is to write parking tickets, so I contend that anyone putting money in any meter, even if it's a meter that they park at, is thus preventing the parking enforcer from doing their job, which, again, is to write a parking ticket. So I will be there. This is the second time the trial has happened in the Superior Court. It initially went to Superior Court, then was thrown out, appealed to the State Supreme Court. State Supreme Court partially remanded the case back to Superior Court, and the city tells Superior Court, we want our hearing. So there's a hearing this Friday and next Friday, so neither this week nor next week will there be a Friday show due to journalistic obligations. But because today is Wednesday, as I do on Wednesdays, or at least as I've done since the show moved from being a weekly Sunday show to a thrice weekly Monday, Wednesday, Friday, asterisk with rare exceptions, Wednesday is the Ask Me Anything. It's where I answer your questions, and I've got some really good questions this week. The first question that I'm going to tackle, it's one that it took me a little longer than normal to wind up getting an answer for. The question comes from a friend of mine who says, a member of my homeschool group posted these questions a little while ago. She gave me permission to pass them on to you so you can answer them on your AMA. I want to teach my kids how to research a topic on the internet, something more than just typing in a keyword and search the Wikipedia page. Any recommendations for ways to get them to dig deeper, possibly websites or curriculum designed for this purpose? So I did some research, and, it took me about 3 different keyword combinations before I actually found anything even closely related to what it is that I was looking to find. So the first thing that I would suggest is try to change up the keywords that you're using a little bit. And also, in addition to doing my own research, I went to some people that I thought might have some good insight. There's a Facebook page or a Facebook group that I'm in of people that are listeners, supporters, friends of the host of a podcast called the School Sucks Project podcast. So I asked, and I got several answers from there as well. So I want to sort of give you some of the info from other homeschoolers/unschoolers, and then I'll give you the information that I was able to find of various resources. So the first person responds, I don't like the question, and I don't think it has an answer. If the child is not interested in the topic, they're just going to search keywords and read the Wikipedia page. And then someone else says, as a parent, it's the parent's job to facilitate that desire to learn. Find hands-on experience for the child. Go to the library, check out books on the subject, watch YouTube videos together, hit up a museum or a park. I like the internet for some of the good basic info, but after that, doing is how you learn. Nick Hazelton a name that you probably do not know. He's a 17-year-old yak farmer. He has a podcast called the Anarcho-Yacatalist podcast, and this kid is super smart. And I realize at 17, technically not really a kid. Like, he's starting to become an adult. 100 years ago, he would have been considered an adult, but now he's still considered a kid. And I guess because I'm 20 years older than this guy, calling a teenager a kid sort of feels accurate. But Nick says, depends on what it is. YouTube is great looking up keywords on iTunes for podcasts on the subject, even Netflix for documentaries. But if the child is not interested, I'm saying this as a 17-year-old, and this is me reading verbatim what he says. He says, I'm saying this as a 17-year-old directing my own education. If they're not interested, they're going to look no deeper than Wikipedia by either researching the sources Wikipedia pages have or continuing down the Google search page after reading the wiki article. So basically, the feedback that I got is unless the kid is interested in learning whatever the subject is, they're not really going to look any deeper. There's someone else who chimed in, another parent. She says, ask critical questions about asking critical questions to what they find is a good way to make them think about what they find. My son and I, she said, had an interesting discussion regarding dinosaurs. Are they birds or reptiles? And we got into a debate about creation and scientific theory. The definition of scientific theory versus fact, absence of proof is not proof itself, etc. Those conversations usually make him go back and do research again because he will come back with better arguments in a week or so. Normally he does anyway. Of course, I help him search and find materials too. I disagree regarding the library. What they have is usually outdated, whereas the internet is not. My entire master's thesis was written without use of the library 10 years ago. All scientific articles are online. So what was I able to find in my research of websites that you could go to that might wind up giving you that sort of little bit of dig deeper? Well, what I found was a list of websites from study.com. I also found a couple of curriculums that are research-based curriculums. So from study.com, they have a website. It's 25 legitimately useful sites for college students, but I feel that these could be used by anyone. Sites for student research. RefDesk is an award-winning site that is a great place to find and check facts. RefDesk has an enormous collection of reference materials, searchable databases, and other great resources that can't be found anywhere else. There's also the Internet Public Library, Encyclopedia.com, Cha-Cha. Although Cha-Cha is not a citable source, it's a fantastic starting point for research. The human-powered search engine has more than 15,000 guides who are dedicated to answering any question. And American Fact Finder. This is actually a project of the U.S. Census Bureau. I'll tell you about the curriculums when I come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, ExpressCoin, and Amazon, at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Before I tell you about a couple of research-based curriculums that are designed for homeschool, unschool, etc., I want to make sure that I tell you about an 11-year-old boy. This 11-year-old boy is surviving the zombie apocalypse, and he's doing so all by himself. Survivor Max is an 11-year-old boy, and as I said, he's surviving the zombie apocalypse alone in New Hampshire. These slow-moving, non-thinking, lame brains have swarmed his home searching for living flesh. Max must apply his Porcupine Freedom Scouts training to plan his escape, but first, he must prove that he's too smart to die. Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, or you can read Chapter 1 absolutely free at survivormax.com. That's survivormax.com. So I found a couple of curriculums that are related to research-based education. And again, this is in answer to the first question for the Ask Me Anything, where the questioner says, I want to teach my kids how to research a topic on the internet, something more than just typing in a keyword and reaching the wiki page. Any recommendations for ways to get them to dig deeper, possibly websites or curriculum designed for that purpose? There were two curriculums that I found, both of which got curriculum awards from homeschool.com. The first is Home Learning Institute. It is listed here by homeschool.com as being a complete online curriculum for grades 5 through 12. Lessons are research-based, encouraging students to find the information, not just read the material. The courses inspire students to become critical thinkers who view all sides of an issue and can arrive at thoughtful conclusions. Courses contain complete lessons plans, answer keys assessment, and a parent-teacher response component for each question. Parent functions as the teacher and directs the student's education. The parent is free to include or exclude any parts of the curriculum, as well as add special assignments to enhance the course of study. And the other one is TRISMS. That's an acronym, TRISMS. And they say, tired of textbooks? TRISMS is an aggressive tool for developing academic knowledge, critical thinking skills, practical living skills, literary analysis, writing, creativity, and more. TRISMS integrates writing with IEW, that's the Institute for Excellence in Writing, history, geography, literature analysis, rhetoric, economics, critical thinking, and more for middle and high school students. It's classical, integrated, and research-based. So I will post links to both of these curriculums, as well as the link to all of the ones that won awards from homeschool.com, and the link over to study.com's 25 legitimately useful sites for college students. And I think it's kind of strange that they use the term legitimately, because that sort of makes it sound like they're not legitimate. But, you know, like when I read it, it just seemed like they meant it sort of in irony. Like, these are legitimately good, we promise. The next question, you know what, I'll answer the sort of silly question next before going on to the more serious question. A listener wants to know, or rather a listener's son wants to know if it will hurt when the rapture comes. Will he be chewed up? And this question actually got posted on a thread where I was talking about the eclipse on Sunday, and people using this supermoon and blood moon and super blood moon, which none of which are astronomical terms. They're all like clickbait hype sort of terms that have come about in the last couple of years, where supermoon technically means that the moon is closer than normal to the Earth, and since the moon travels in an elliptical pattern around the Earth, elliptical orbit, about half of the moons are closer than average, and about half of them are further away. And blood moon just means, well, the moon looks red, and that happens every time there's an eclipse. And yes, as someone pointed out, it can happen at other times, but those other times, it's really weird things to where atmospheric conditions are just right to where you're seeing the red light come off of the moon, and it's actually not light coming off of the moon. It's, like certain atmospheric wavelengths, and there's, like the infrared and the ultraviolet and whatnot. And that's really what you're seeing. That's why the sky appears blue, is because certain wavelengths are getting bounced off and other ones aren't. And so you see blue. And with the eclipse, what you're seeing is basically the infrared that's not being diverted by the atmosphere when the moon's being completely blocked off by the sun. And that there were claims by some, evangelical Christian preachers that, well, the world is going to end because there's all of these occurrences of, quote unquote, blood moons, eclipses. There's eclipses, and they happen in patterns. That's how people are able to predict when they're coming, is because it's patterns. So the one that happened this past Sunday, it's one of these really rare ones that happens every 18 years. Every 18 years. Yes, every 18 years. What this is it's the harvest moon, meaning the first full moon after or near the equinox. And, well, of course, it's the supermoon because it's the closest moon, or closer than average. This one actually happened to be, the closest point that the moon would be to the Earth during the calendar year. So, it was even bigger. It was like 14% bigger, but it really only looks bigger at the horizon. Once it gets up in the middle of the sky, it doesn't look any bigger than normal. And, in fact, when I was looking, I could hardly see the thing. But I digress. So the coincidence here that happens every 18 years is that it's the harvest moon, a full eclipse on a harvest moon, and it happens every 18 years. And yeah, there are other patterns that happen, like within other cycles. And there's the thing they call the tetrad, which is a series of 4 solar and lunar eclipses within a couple-year period. And, well, because these things, again, they happen on a somewhat regular basis, and it just happens that they're 6 months apart, and the one in the spring was near Passover, the one in the fall was near the Feast of Tabernacles, both of which are Jewish events. And, well, John Hagee said, well, this is a biblical sign that the end times are coming, because the last time this happened in this series this close together was 500 years ago, and, well, the world didn't end 500 years ago, so what's your point? But I digress. So the question is about the rapture, and the rapture is something that, like atheists probably don't believe in. Muslims, I don't think, believe in a rapture. I'm not entirely positive. It's really sort of a Christian thing, but not all Christian denominations believe it to happen the same way or at the same time. So the answer is, I don't know. probably will not hurt if it happens the way most people think it's going to happen. You just sort of like levitate up into the clouds. I don't think there's any chewing. There's one final question this week, and I'll answer that in just a moment on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month or any amount of Bitcoin per month, thanks to the recurring payment options provided by Coinbase. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Fiend Phone. I'm using Fiend Phone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Fiend Phone.
Fiend Phone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of Fiend Phone right now at fiendphone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve Fiend Phone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to fiendphone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's fiendphone.com. FEENPHONE.com. Foxtrot, Echo, November, phone.com.
Fiend Phone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Before I get into the final question of the week, and it involves glow-in-the-dark turtles. Yeah, but not the Teenage Mutant Ninja kind. I'll explain. But before I do, I want to make sure that I tell you about Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on investing and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 850-478-5270 or visit them online at rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co. So the question came as a comment on a Facebook post about this glow-in-the-dark turtle, and the question is this real? So first, let me tell you about this glow-in-the-dark turtle that actually, well, it might not actually glow in the dark per se, but I'll tell you about it anyway. And there's a video from National Geographic where they are videoing this turtle and explaining some of the stuff, and like, hey, this is really cool. It's this glowing turtle thing, and it's actually not glowing per se. It is biofluorescent, or at least the shell is biofluorescent. And, well, it was the first time that a reptile had ever been observed as being biofluorescent. The story that I have here comes from thisiscolossal.com, and they do have the YouTube video here from National Geographic embedded in the article. And they say, no, this is not a clip from the latest Miyazaki anime. This is the first sighting of a real fluorescent turtle. Marine biologist David Gruber of City University of New York was recently in the Solomon Islands to film a variety of biofluorescent fish and coral when suddenly a completely unexpected sight burst into the frame. A glowing yellow and red sea turtle. Very important here. Two colors, yellow and red. The creature is a critically endangered hawkbill sea turtle, and until this sighting in July, the phenomenon had never been documented in turtles, let alone any other reptile. Biofluorescence is the ability for an organism to reflect blue light and re-emit it as a different color. This should not be confused with bioluminescence, where organisms actually produce their own light. So, fireflies, for example, would be an example of something with bioluminescence, where they actually create their own light. Biofluorescence, on the other hand, has been examined and caught, if you will, in a variety of undersea creatures like coral, some sharks, never heard of that, and a couple varieties of shrimp have the ability to show a single color of green, red, or orange under the right lighting conditions. But according to National Geographic, no organisms until the one specific hawkbill sea turtle that they discovered in July has ever shown the ability to emit two distinct colors. As seen in the video, the coloring appears to not only be a mottled pattern on the turtle shell, but even extends within the cracks of its head and feet. Gruber mentions this could be a mixture of both glowing red algae attached to the turtle, but the yellow fluorescence is undoubtedly part of the animal. And I recommend you watch the video because the video is really neat. But again, this is not the same as something that is glow-in-the-dark. And that's how I first saw this reported, as a glow-in-the-dark sea turtle. And, well, no, it's not a glow-in-the-dark sea turtle. Have you ever been somewhere where they had black light? And they reported here that they were using blue light, which I think is somewhat similar. But if you've ever been somewhere with black light, and if you're old enough to have gone to, like certain clubs or gone to play laser tag. Remember when laser tag was cool back in the 90s? And they would have the black lights and certain stuff would just sort of like glow to where your white shirt was really, really bright. Yeah, that's bioluminescence, to where it's not glowing in the dark. Your shirt does not become glow in the dark. Your shirt just reflects the certain wavelengths that are coming off of that black light, or in this case of this turtle, a blue light. So, no, it's not glow in the dark, but it is bioluminescent, which is still really cool. But, this is something that you have to specifically be diving with a blue light, trying to find stuff to reflect. Like if you're just out in the Solomon Islands, hanging out, swimming, you're not just going to see, glow-in-the-dark turtles. That's not going to happen. But if you have a blue light, then you might possibly see something. But again, these things are incredibly rare, listed here as a quote-unquote critically endangered species, the hawkbill sea turtle. And again, I do recommend watching the video just because the video is very, very interesting. Now, there's no more questions this week. Well, there's one question that I did get, but I've not had time to completely research, and it wasn't necessarily asked for this week. It was asked for a future AMA. So I'll get to that next week. But, I don't mention often enough the fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerous supporters. And a few weeks ago, I actually sort of revamped the fans program, implemented Patreon. And Patreon is something that actually keeps track of the people that donate to whatever the cause. So a lot of times it will be other podcasters that do a Patreon. Most of them do a per podcast donation. Because I do so many podcasts in a month, I just ask for monthly contributions. So there are additional perks that I'm able to now give out thanks to Patreon. And again, Patreon keeps track so that you can see how much money I'm bringing in through the fans. And there's, I think, 1 or 2 people right now that are contributing to the fans program that have not yet changed over to donate through Patreon. So it's not completely accurate if you go to the Patreon, but it's fairly close. And once these last couple of people switch over, it will be accurate. But one of the things that you get as a perk for donating to the fans program, joining the fans program through Patreon, is you get commercial-free versions of the podcast. So if you like the podcast, but you want to only listen to a 27-minute version instead of a 30, and you don't want to hear the commercials, donate to Patreon, fans.fppradio.com. There's the link. You can also donate with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin donors, you don't get the perk that Patreon donors do.